So the patch notes are out. We were given the patch notes today, and it turns out that a lot of the stuff that we saw in the CD Projekt Red stream is covered here. Almost all of it. I don't think there were very many notes here that really surprised me. There were a couple, though, so I'm going to highlight those ones, the ones that we did not see at all. So we can just start at the top. I'm actually kind of pumped to go through this with you guys. Have I tried a full ambush deck? Yeah, they're pretty cool. You put the Elven War Dancers in, and I think they would work. I think they would give Skellige a real problem, personally. So anyway, so let's talk here. So first of all, the big change, I think this is one of the first ones they talked about on the stream as well, is the change to Clear Skies now being called First Light. You have two options now when you play it. You can clear the weather, or you can rally a random bronze unit from your deck onto the playing field, so onto the board. So while it still functions as Clear Weather did, now it also has a secondary function if you think it's going to be a dead card. So you can put it in your deck if weather is meta, and if you are against a deck that doesn't use weather, you just can play it for some other reason. That makes the card very good. It makes it a very safe tech card and is kind of a nerf to weather, I think. You nerf weather in that case. So yeah, it's really good. I'll probably play with it, but I think it's really gonna depend on who's running the weather effects in the first place. Who's running these weather effects? So there's some new things in there that make weather cooler than they were, than it was, but I think they couldn't make weather even better than it already is without having some sort of counter to weather. So I think this is probably needed, and I think that they probably tried a bunch of different things before they came to this one. Number 2, Dagon can also spawn First Light as well as make weather. So if you're following along, Dagon now can do one of the following 5 different things: Frost, Fog, or Rain on the row, clear all the weather, which I actually thought he could do. And there's me streaming at one point. I mistakenly thought he could do that all the time. Now he actually can. And he can also rally a troop out. It's pretty good hero now. Pretty good hero. It's he's got like a beater version of Eridan where he's going to pull some bronze unit out in the but to sacrifice that, you also have all of this other stuff. So pretty cool. Drowner stuff. So all of the Drowner stuff we talked about, of course, in the podcast. We think this is pretty cool. The Drowner now has its final form. We always knew it was a placeholder. So in this case, Drowner now basically drags you into the water. Doesn't create rain, but will pull you into the siege row, pull a targeted unit into the siege row, and is immune to rain itself. So when we say that there's cool new things coming with weather, that's one of those things that's coming. So we can keep a checklist. What's a cool new thing for weather, and what poops right on weather? So I think right now it's actually probably 2 points for weather. Let's see, non and weather. So I'm going to say that Dagon is a point for weather, and the Drowner is a point for weather, but Clear Skies change is a point against weather. So we'll see how we feel about it. Field Marshal Duda, this is a new one. Basically, Field Marshal Duda comes out at 3 and not 1. So Zoltan Animal Trainer is just better than he was. Except when you play him as the Agitator, in which case he's worse. So it's a fair change. I'm not sure what the solid reasoning was, what the card wasn't really getting done at 1 that it can do at 3. I think it might have just been like a general value of gold. So as Zoltan Animal Trainer, people called him the poor man's yen. People said that on my stream when I had the choice to pick him. So I would agree. I don't think I agree with that anymore. Now, the 3 is very similar to how yen can, at least in Northern Realms, Unicorn comes out at 3. But Yennefer's stuff isn't being changed. Yennefer is stronger than Zoltan, does more. So I think this is probably just a change to bring Zoltan up in strength so he can play in the same league. Mahakam Mondays, Greybox, where are you at, my friend? Mahakam Defenders have now 4 strength, so that's good. Your Mahak bros. And the Guard also has 4 strength. So the resilient dudes, the guys that buff the resilient dudes, just a little bit better. So they come pre-Barkley L's, and now you can Barkley L's them again. So when they were at 5, I think, in the Kill the Servers event, they were at 5. Now, the game was very different back then. There wasn't a lot of removal in that version. But Scoia'tael you could argue that Scoia'tael had the strongest deck in Kill the Servers. So having the Mahakam Guard go up in strength and having basically get that head start on buffing your dwarves makes them not able to be lacerated. Just that 1 point makes it harder for them to remove. So lacerate is no longer something that you would just kind of lean on in your mulligan, knowing that people might be playing Mahakam Defender. So it's pretty good. Mahakam Guard increases non-dwarf strength by 3, but does increase dwarf strength by 5. Now, this is a pretty cool change. Now we're seeing dwarven decks get a little love. Some more interesting stuff. It's not huge, but it's something worth noting. So that means that when you play the Mahakam Guard onto your Mahakam Defender, Mahakam Guard, now with the increase in strength, has a value of 9. Dwarven Skirmishers also have a value of 9 when played properly. So we got 2 dwarf bronzes that give you a value of 9 when you play them. That's pretty good. That's pretty good stuff, I think. With promotion stuff being less good, I think that buffs might just alternatively end up being okay. Dimeritium Bomb's still a problem. Dimeritium Shackles obviously is a new card coming in, but not in this patch. I think this is just, let's just make dwarves better. And then finally, the Mahakam Guard is immune to frost. You cannot rely on just frosting the row and laughing at them. They are a resilient, tenacious race of warriors. Those dwarves. So this basically, let's just look at the guard right here. So the guard is now frost immune, starts at 4, and gets a bigger buff from the other dwarf bros. So that's just all this here. This is all this dwarf love. Greyboxer loves the dwarf love. Strictly speaking, Animal Tamer has way more potential value than Yen, but buffing is generally kind of weak because of weather. Yeah, but he needed something. He just needed a little bit of love, and this is kind of how they gave it to him. They could have made him 9, but they obviously wanted to make it kind of fair based on which side you choose to put it on. So, very interesting. Botchling only stays on the board for 1 round. Just botchling nerf. Just, you don't play botchling round 1 and then just make it be a constant annoyance from your opponent from start to finish. Even if you promote it. Here's the thing. If you promote the botchling never goes into the graveyard. The botchling never loses its promotion. And even with the changes of promotion, the botchling still remains a gold 6 at the very least, if you didn't buff them already. So you'd need to shackle the botchling, or else you'd have to deal with it for 3 turns, even if you get through the second turn. Now, it's only guaranteed that it stays for that 1 extra round. So just a nerf to the botchling in light of all of the Northern Realms tricks. It's just one more trick out of the bag now. Nithril damage change. Now, also not in this patch notes is Nithril's health value change, which is now 6 and not 7. But he pops for 2 now with each Wild Hunt unit. I think Nithril is very strong, and people will need Elzer's Thunder on hand to deal with him because he will wreck your board. Wreck it. Pinging for 6 with Wild Hunt Riders, that's really strong, guys. I think that's really strong. It's a huge buff to Nithril, and you need to deal with him. Even more so now. He was already kind of dangerous, kind of very inconvenient. Anything that can continuously generate you value is worth being concerned about. But now he's even better. Octopus Countdown being changed from 5 to 4. We'll see if this even matters. I think obviously that's a huge change, but it's maybe not enough. 3 turns maybe would have been okay. Octopus is... I know you guys love Octopus, but you can't really promote Octopus the same... Well, you can still promote Octopus. That still works. I don't know if promotion goes away in hand. This remains to be seen. I'm just going to have to definitely try to figure this out here. Counterplay for hit. But worth playing way more. Yeah. I agree with all of that stuff that you said. Counterplay for him. Yeah, he's just a little bit better. That Zoltan. But yeah, Octopus is just... You need to react to it a little bit faster. Octopus is... I find playing Octopus, it forces passes more than it forces answers. And I think that's actually quite good. And we'll see if that remains. Added a vampire category to Regis vampire form. There's going to be some vampire things coming, so maybe Ekamaras aren't really kind of crappy. I don't like Ekamaras. Personally, I don't think that they're great. I feel like it's just kind of cool. I'm going to take the unit I have, add it to the 6, and watch it get scorched, Dimeritium bombed. Doesn't really... I don't know what the benefit is of it consuming unless you have the Arrakis Behemoth, and that just is very slow and clunky in the first place. Murkta is weaker now, is now a 4 and not a 5, but the damage, oh man, this is huge. 2 points of damage increase overall, 3, 2, and 1. A straight value of 10 now, but flexible, and you can hit multiple targets. So you can focus this 6 on anything. Really good card, Murkta. I'm putting this card in decks. Very good card. Really, because you can ping the same thing each time. So Ekimara can no longer consume unrevealed ambush cards. Seems more like a bug fix, but I guess I guess people were doing that. You shouldn't be doing that anyway. Octopus got a buff with the demote in the graveyard. Ah, you could say it like that. Yes, I think that's true. Mickey Bricky's almost the same as Morin. Yeah. Yeah, almost exactly the same. Really, I mean, arguably better. You can put the 3 on one and 3 on the other just as easy. Actually, I don't see a single difference. It seems like Murkta is strictly better than Morin. I think I might say strictly better. Except Morin is an elf. That's not true. Is Morin an elf? Murkta is a dragon, which means nothing right now, but it could mean something in the future. Benefit of Ekimara is the synergy with monsters' faction ability. Yeah, that's true. Just feel like feel like the risk and reward isn't quite there. I don't know. Maybe I don't see it. You guys like my new Witcher hat? On back order for months, and I finally got it in the mail today. A little present to myself. Hemdall now destroys Camby and removes all weather effects. So Camby buff. Basically, Camby buff. So now Hemdall is worth 3 less, worth 5 less if you played against Northern Realms. Plus, it removes all weather effects if that was a problem at all. Just an extra added bonus. So you can't play Ragnarok and then Hemdall if you were ever going to do that, but you can play Ragnarok after Hemdall if you really wanted to. It's interesting. I mean, we'll have to see. It's a strange tweak. I thought that the change to Camby was going to be a little bit more like straight, like value changing, but it's pretty cool though. Pretty cool, yeah. We all agree that Murkta is strictly better than Morin. Not good, not great to have cards like that. So maybe Morin will get a change to make her kind of better, a better faction legendary silver. But Murkta is basically showing what the potential is right now, and it's high. Maybe because at one iteration it was 2, 2, and 1, and then it was 2, 1, and 1, and at one time Murkta was 6. It seems like they're really just trying to get that value right, but they want to keep that spirit of the card together. Players can now choose on which row to place agile units summoned by reinforcements. That's good. I like that very much. Agile units summoned by reinforcements. So I guess there's agile units for Northern Realms, or situations where Northern Realms have agile units and they cannot choose. So quality of life increase for those people who are doing that, I suppose. Herald change is great. Herald does 3 damage if it's wounded, 2 damage if the unit is not wounded, and damages gold units. So if you've got 3 things on the board, 1 is wounded and 2 aren't, the wounded one takes 3, and the 2 that aren't wounded take 2. So even in that situation, Herald is now getting value. And that's a bad example, but it's just at 7, even there. So we all know how Stamelford's can get some crazy value, and we also know that Stamelford's is changing, and I'm sure we'll get to that change in a second. But Herald is really good now. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that Herald is, how you say, not bad. Not a bad choice. Herald no longer damages unrevealed cards. I didn't even know he did that, but he's not doing it anymore, so whatever. Makes Unvic harder to kill. What, the Herald change makes Unvic harder to kill? Is that true? I mean, it does with the Savage Bear, I suppose. Aglay's strength changed from 7 to 5. I think you just do that. Aglay's was a really, really good card. Really strong card, so I guess that's just what they wanted to do. If that's the only change, then Aglay's is still going to do what she does, and she's still going to be awesome. Barclay Ellis now affects gold dwarf cards, so Zoltan and Zoltan. That's all you need to know. I think people wanted this for a while, but I highlighted on the podcast, the live podcast, which is up, by the way, if you haven't heard it. If you haven't seen it, it's on YouTube, Commander's Horn, and you can find it at commandershorn.com if you want your audio fix, on iTunes if you want it on the go. Our reactions are much more fast and furious than this would be. Barkley Elves now affects gold cards, so Zoltan gets buffed, and I think people wanted that. But on the stream, I did say, it's interesting to note, this is, I believe, the only silver card that affects gold cards in the game. So there's that. Geralt Igni now requires the opposing row to have 20 strength total instead of 15. Nerf to Igni. Still think it sees play. Think it's deader more often. And it's easier to play around it. So I think strategically, Geralt Igni is much worse because it's easier to play around it. Sometimes if you're just playing a turn and you're going deep, it's really hard. Just one of your rows is going to end up at 15. But 20 is a different story. You can control that to a pretty high degree, I think. So Igni will be worse, but I think the takeaway here is that Igni won't be an auto-include as he is now because Igni is just so strong. Every deck has him. Now maybe you could make a case that other cards are better. But Igni, when he hits, is still going to be amazing. 6 plus whatever he scorches is usually like 15, 16 plus. Like goes, the sky is the limit, really. Very strong card still. So in Skellige with the skirmishers, you're still going to easily be able to nail them with it. Morkvarg buffed 6-5, better card now. Ciri changed 8-6, but nerf. Card's just as good as it always was. I won't even notice this unless I'm losing by 2 in a match. I won't even notice this because Ciri's strength is not the fact that she's 8. The fact that she's 8 made her like even better than she was, and she was already good. I say that Ciri plays at a 1, but it's a good card. That's probably a bold thing to say. So, Burn a strength change from 9 to 8. Burn it easier to play slightly. Draws 3 cards instead of 4. So that's interesting. So she's weaker in this case. Easier to make the choice. She throws less of your stuff away, but when it comes down to stuff that's going to be activating on discard, she's worse. I think she's still going to be just fine. I'm curious as to, I guess this is one of the things that, I say the devs don't make any knee-jerk changes, right? Hello, Faramir. Oh, thank you very much, my friend. Zoltan is a defender with 1 more health that can't be buffed. Yeah, it's true. I didn't skip Herald targeting gold cards. I think it's great that he targets gold cards. There's not much more to say about it, but now you can wound gold cards with Herald on the regular. Everyone plays Yorveth next patch to kill Isengrim, so Ciri at 6 hurts. Maybe. You'd want to kill Isengrim, I think. But I mean, if everybody's playing Yorveth decks, then I mean, we're trying to put ourselves in a future meta state while thinking about the decks that are popular today, and that's impossible to do that. Yeah, there's going to be people that want to run Isengrim, but I think that there's going to be people wanting to run like all sorts of different stuff. I think that the meta is going to be wildly different. Yeah, so this change here, I feel like this is a change where you can tell the devs, the devs don't make the knee-jerk reactions, right? They look at the data. They look at the games being played. They look at win percentages, perhaps. But they look at these things. They don't just write these notes on numbers and just draw them out of a hat. So I didn't think Berna Bran was too strong, but I think that she must have been. There must have been some data on Berna where it's like, it doesn't matter if she's 9. She's still really strong. We need to make her less good in this place here. But if we're going to do that, we got to bring her down here. So it's just interesting how that came apart. The young bear spawn from the young berserker now gains strength as if it was a standard Skellige unit. Proper change. Happy about it. Makes the card better. Not sure if I'd play it, but definitely makes the card better. Now in round 3, the young bear comes out at 8. Frost immune. Could be good. Elias is now 4 instead of 3. Can't lacerate it. Harder to kill. Otherwise, it's the same card. Think it'd still be good, especially in Isengrim. Now, Isengrim, the way Isengrim works, he spawns 2 neophytes every time a special card is played while he's on the board already. So you can set this up a little bit better. You don't have to save Elias. You don't have to run a whole bunch of other neophyte cards necessarily to make Elias work. So there's all that stuff, of course. Isla Ren. This is a fun card. On the stream, I called it the Scoia'tael's newest Woo Girl. So basically, when you play her, she adds +1 to all elves. And when there's 5 or more elves on your side, she plays herself automatically. So the party starts to fill up, and then she arrives passionately late, and she gets the party jumping up. It's Elf Party with Isla Ren. So I think that she's a really cool card. I think you easily put her into a deck with Isengrim. You make a couple neophytes, Isla Ren just comes on down, right? Every Skellige deck runs Burna. That's the problem. Yeah, I think that is a problem. You don't want cards. You don't want cards to be auto includes. I think, as from a developer standpoint, you always want there to be like a choice. However, you also want to make sure that you understand the difference between a strong card and a strong that isn't, or a card that isn't strong. So, Fairmer, you think the Burna thing is a buff? Could be. I think it is in a way that she's weaker when you play her, and she makes you throw away less. And sometimes you just didn't want to throw away all those good cards. So I think that overall she's better. But it's different still. So if you were having discard activators, like your Pirate Captain doesn't get a buff of 9 necessarily. She may be better now. I don't think this stops people from using her in every deck. I think I would still use her, no problem with this change. So yeah, so Aileron's awesome. Better than she is right now. This is better. This rework is better. Griffin can also steal special cards. Really good. Good for Frighteners, I guess. Good for making sure that Glace can't pull a special card back. Good in case you... Well, I think Griffin doesn't work like that anymore, so... I mean, those are the main ones. Denying Frightener buffs and denying Aglace buffs, I suppose. There just may be a situation where you want to do that. For sure. So many times I discard good cards because I have to play her early. Yeah. Also kill him with horned wenches. Yeah, it's his weakness. It's true. When's the patch coming? Monday? Oh man, it'd be so good if the patch came on Monday. It's a good change. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, Burna still auto-include. I don't see anything that scares me away from using Burna in every Skellige deck personally. Aglace, good point, Fairmere. Yeah, I wasn't thinking. So yeah, so the Griffin change is not... It's really not an amazing change. I think it's just so you don't play your Griffin and have it be completely dead, I suppose. I think you could have buffed it in a different way. Change to weather. If a gold unit on a row with weather is converted to silver and bronze, the power is reduced to 1. This is huge for Dimerdium Shackles, Kidweni Sergeant on weathered units. This is a very big change because right now, as we know, weather only affects the unit when it's dropped into the weather and not for the unit being on the weather already. Assuming Eridan's immune to frost, but like if you were to, well, what they have done here is now Caranthir and Imlerith are immune to frost, and the Woodland Spirit is immune to fog because they already would have been because they're gold, but you can't remove their gold status and make them crappy because, you know, they're ready for the frost. Have you seen those suits of armor? They're like flannel inserts and they're super warm. Griffin is just for future-proofing? Yep. Yep, some of these changes, kind of like how adding the elf tag and making Aglace impossible to pull gold special cards and stuff like that. Just changing the design space, I think. So some of these changes are like that, for sure. She can use the specials, but the one that made her really powerful were the ones that were relentless. Yeah, Aglace is going to get like nerfs overall based on what she can pull. Using Ethna and other cards we'll see more of. And you should. Options are better. So, so this is a huge change, generally. Something's already on the row. It gets weathered when it gets its gold status removed. A lot of stuff about weather, a lot of stuff about removing gold status in this patch. Fairmere doesn't like it. It's inconsistent. Well, is it inconsistent if this was the only case? This is the only case, right? Where it would happen. Because it's not really inconsistent because there's not any other situations where a unit would be in weather and then all of a sudden affected by it, except in a demotion state. Correct me if I'm wrong. Because I think that was the only time in which weather was not working, if the unit was already on the row. If anything, it's more consistent. We'll see. I mean, we'll see. I think it's fine. I think that it's a huge buff to weather. So once again, weather gets up. I'm going to put a tick here on weather. Weather gets a buff. So weather is winning 3-1 right now, as far as new things for weather that make it stronger. Yeah, Caranthir, Ilmarith, Woodland Spirit. Lord of Unvik immune to frost. Interesting change. I guess they just want to make it still difficult for you to trigger Hjalmar. Units with... Oh, boy. Whew, I gotta finish this coffee drink here. Whatever's in here. Oh, my goodness. Units with 0 health should not activate in most situations. It wasn't happening a lot, but I think it was happening with the ship that fires. I think that was one of them. I think the ballistas that fire, too, is another one. So that's good. Stammelford's Tremors deals damage to both sides of the board. Less people will be playing Stammelford's Eisengrim buff, you could say. A buff to anything that pings on one side of the board only. This is a big change not having Stammelford's now be the same. You could still use it in heavy control because you wouldn't have very many units as well. As long as there's more units on their side of the board, it's just harder to get the value. You could play Stammelford's easily for like 15, 17, depending on how much stuff on the board. Just a ton of value. So I think this is this brings the power level of the card down while not really changing how it affects the opponent's side of the board. Still good for killing Foglets. Still good for killing whatever you want to kill. That's 2. Hjalmar wasn't great already. Now it's more useless. Yeah, it's true. Hjalmar, poor guy. Poor guy. Hawker Healer buffed. Interesting. I think overall it was a decision to buff Squayatel units like across the board. So this is just one of those changes. Card's even better than it was before. It's now it's kind of like Hedwani Siege support when you hit 2, but the ceiling is much higher. It's good, right? Commander's Horn now removed from the game after playing. Well, it's because you got to wait for the next episode. So Commander's Horn can't be played twice by a Glace. Can't be played twice ever, really. It's as if it never occurred. So, and Dandelion's changed too. So I think that the problem that they identify with Northern Realms is the fact that they could do the Horn twice, once through Dandelion, once through Commander's Horn, and then maybe another time if you res Dandelion. So now, no matter what Northern Realms does, they only have one horn to sound. I didn't have a lot of problems with multi-horns, but I think that something was being seen. They were talking about this in the Dev Questions channel for a while. Like, one of the first things that I heard about changes was the fact that they were concerned about Northern Realms having 2+ horns. You know? So there's that. Roach no longer played from hand when a gold card is played. This is good. Your opponent can't rip Roach out of your hand and deny you card advantage. When you unfortunately end up with Roach in your hand, which can happen once in a blue moon. Roach is only played when her owner plays gold card, which means that you can't rely on your opponent playing gold cards. You need your own gold card. So a Roach nerf there. She doesn't just come out. You can't have her on the board already when you start buffing her. You have to actually initiate that call out, blow the whistle yourself on Roach. Roach in general, I mean with the promote changes, I don't know if Roach is going to be as good. Roach does add strength to every gold card you play if you want to look at it like that. So I think that's pretty good as well. But yeah, podcast. You have to wait for you like that. Eh? You can still Nature's Gift Commander's Horn. Yes, you can. That has been confirmed. Good catch there, Pyrofox. You can Nature's Gift Commander's Horn. Zero Total Spice makes Hawker Healer is going to be more interesting. Yep, slightly more interesting. Roach's Dunzo. Silver slot's pretty competitive, I think, these days. So we'll have to see. I mean, always having a target for buffs isn't a bad thing, but it's just not the same. It's just not like how it was. Shani nerfed. Odrin nerfed. Prince Stennis nerfed. Priscilla buffed. Reinforced Trebuchet. Okay, so hold on. Let's just go. So this seems to be like just a general assault on Northern Realms. Little nerfs here. So Shiny is less strong. Odrin is less strong. Odrin, I saw Odrin every now and then. Just a little bit more killable at 4. Easier to deal with. Stennis is more in line with Donar, at least on round 1. But these are just like little bits here and there, little ticks here and there. So there's going to be no less close losses with Northern Realms, you could say. Priscilla brought up so she doesn't die to the bears. Well, at least not one bear. Trebs, this is a big change. So Trebs now they do 2 damage again, but now they trigger every 3 turns. So over 6 turns, they do 1 point more damage. I don't know if this makes them playable, guys. I don't know if this puts them back. Like, they didn't have to be where they were. The problem was that they buffed themselves, too. It was really strong, though, the 2 per turn. 2 every 2 turns was pretty strong. Like, and 3 every 3 turns. That's bad, right? That's too strong. They're trying to get it comfortable, but I don't know. I don't know if you can get there. Maybe put it back to like where they buff themselves and bring them back to 1 ping every 2 turns. Maybe that's the strong version. Because the problem was that they were so hard to eliminate because they staggered themselves, and they were so strong when they stayed on the board. So if they were less strong when they stay on the board because their ping is 1, maybe it's okay if they buff themselves again. I just think that this doesn't make them that great. Reinforced Ballista buffed 4 to 6. That's good because that card was, I think anything that has like kind of a clunky way to activate doesn't need to be penalized this much in the strength department, personally. What are you guys saying? What are you guys saying? Roach is dunzo. Poor Odrin. OP and now literally unplayable. Literally. You can't add him to your deck. I don't know if he's literally unplayable. I think that it's just a change. Where's your Kappa? Where's your Kappa after that one? Down with Radovid. Yeah, Faramir. You don't Nature's Gift with target horn? I think it does, though. No, but I think it does. I think that's been confirmed. Balancing Trebs is super hard. So the standard Trebs got a buff. Now they're 4, and they do 2, so now you get a maximum value of 8 from them, and that's good for a bronze card that removes strength. That's pretty good. The stipulation of having 2 separate targets required is probably why they thought this was okay. It's a fine buff. I like it. Gauntro Dim buffed. Just straight up buff. Gauntro Dim better. Monsters that run him better off now. Not too much to say about this. You can still thunder him. But his overall value now is pretty good now. For a silver, he's a 6 that plays 3 that does 3 damage as well. Again, you need to have the targets, but it's one of the strongest silvers in the game now. You can get value of 12 out of him. Plus a Thunderbolt target if you want to run Thunderbolts in that deck. Whoops. Golems are just stronger now. Wild Hunt Warriors, just stronger now. Monster buffs. Monster buffs on units that probably weren't being played too much because they weren't strong enough. Golems, as you know, now are going to be 6 strength. Spawn 2 Golemlings, and the Wild Hunt Warrior now will be a 7 when you can trigger it for 1 point of damage. So effectively, with all of those stipulations in place, can get a full 8 value from you, but on top of that is immune to frost. So pretty good if you're playing weather. That's arguably you could say that's another buff to weather. You could say, but I'm not going to say. I think weather already has enough hits here. Radovid's damage going from 10 to 8. On one hand, I can say this is a huge nerf. On the other hand, I can say that Radovid is still going to be just fine as a leader. You don't stop playing Radovid for this reason. You use Radovid to remove key targets that are gold in a lot of cases. Ciri is one of those targets. You still use Radovid for that. Bork is one of those targets. Bork now survives. Everything else, though, you just get rid of it. And maybe it's like you're less committed to killing Ciri with it. I don't know why you would be. Ciri is the target that you want to use. But if you win that first round, you can just ping whatever you want. But removing strength is, I think they wanted to keep it. They didn't want to make it an odd number and make it 9. But 8 is pretty. No defense against Bork, basically. You need to have your Kidwini Sergeant in the deck, basically, to take care of Bork. But I think that this is fine. I don't think Radovid's going to be that much weaker if you can't do that. Oftentimes, I wouldn't get the full 10 anyway. You only get the full 10 is if you hit a big beefy gold unit like Ceres or Lugos or Geralt. Otherwise, you're just taking the removal. So just a high removal amount, really. You can't beat it. 8 is still the best there is. So Ermion buffed. Dragbondu buffed. Dragbondu now adds 1 to base strength instead of adding 2 to current strength. I mean, you get the extra strength here in his standard buff. You'd use him in the last round. It's base, it's better that way, but it's not 2 to each. King Brand's changed now too, though, so I think this remains to be seen. I've never played with Dragbondu. I don't know. Gaunter will be really, really good when monster passive gets reworked. You think that's gonna happen? Do we have confirmation that monster passive is being looked at? Because I don't know if that's true. I don't know if that's true. Could be true. Assuming Eismoon takes off, Radovid should be great on this patch. Hits Eisen, hits Ciri, leaves Aridin at 2, which is better than killing him. It is. See, I'm not worried about it. I'm not worried about Radovid at all. Just a little worse. I mean, you can't say it's not a nerf. It's a nerf of 2. But when you're that high up, when you're already in the Mile High Club, Nithril strength. You guys know how I feel about the. Oh, this is documented. Just right now, it's just not next to his other piece here. These are Gwent DB's patch notes, so they're actually written a little bit clearer than Gwent's official patch notes. Gwent's official patch notes were kind of all over the place, quotation marks all over the place, and stuff was out of order. So, Hawker support buffed in strength. Hawker support only triggers with loyal special cards. Pretty big nerf. That's a pretty big nerf. Hawker support would actually prevent you from playing stuff. Like, you wouldn't want to do it. That's a big nerf. Hawker support ability now only triggers once from Aromancy. It's another nerf, although arguably that's how it should work. Hawker support now properly affected by weather, which means that is reset to 1 and then not immediately buffed afterwards, I think. So Hawker support that's a pretty big hit that's a pretty big bunch of nerfs, but he was kind of acting sort of erratically anyway. Even after they fixed him in the patch, he still was like, you had to deal with him. You had to. McBearded, every time a monster passive gets mentioned, Rethus hints at this. Not confirmed, but I don't think they're happy with the RNG swings. Gold change didn't fix it. Not with this new value monsters popping up. You got your 13, 15 strength toads, your 15 strength ghouls that are hanging around. So there is that. Thanks, La Vegetaliana, for the water, if you're listening. It's a lot of talking. Let's go, let's go. Vriad Vanguard change. This is good, man, because, I mean, I thought that they needed it, I think. 4 with +2. It's not very good for a bronze. Again, the overall effort to make Scoia'tael units stronger than they were, because they were weak. Red Brigade, strength change from 7 to 8, makes me think that this is no longer a placeholder card, because the 8 strength vanilla units seem to be sticking around, like the Redanian Elite and the Fiend. I don't think either of those cards are changing. So now the Vriad Brigade is a agile unit on 8. You know, if you need 8, there it is, and you can put it anywhere you want. So that's pretty good. It's a pretty good change straight up. Now you can just have a reliable 8 strength like every other faction does, with the exception of Skellige, but they have that water immune ship, which is like the best one of the 4, I think. Brigade strictly better than Knight and Fiend. Yep. As I said, it is agile. You can go either way. Monster passive is Gwenty. Grey Boxer makes a very good point. It shouldn't be how it works with Aromancy, because technically it's 2 cards. Well, I think they just want to make it technically 1 card. I think that they have the power to do that and make that change. They do make the rules after all. In fact, these are kind of those rules. Clan Demoon Pirate. So I thought that this was a straight buff of the card, 1 to 3, which I thought was very strong considering all the other changes in the discard suite being changed. However, the Pirate Captain buff is now 3 to 2. And if you thought that Sarah's nerf made her not playable, you could make the argument that the Pirate Captain buff is not very good either. But he starts with a head start of 1 boost. So yeah. So now if you play Pirate Captain Pirate, his strength goes to 7, and it always did go to 7. No, yes. So you still get a 7 strength captain and the pirate. So that's actually the exact same. It just means the pirate won't be eliminated by, as I said before, a stiff breeze. He's immune to fog, but he's not immune to like sitting on a thumbtack. War Longship buffed. This is a pretty big buff, I think. I think this is a big buff. I think this card was okay to begin with. Now it's really good. This thing comes down at 7 in the late round. It's pretty good. I think this is just going to make this card better. I would run, if I had to pick one between the Pirate Captain or this, I would pick this, I think. I think this card might be the better one, after all. It's super strong. It pings for 2, and it's not just on discard, it's also on units being destroyed. Play it early. Not bad, not bad. Savage Bear nerfed. This is kind of sad. I think that Savage Bear at 5 was okay. I mean, there must have been a problem. Maybe like putting him at 4, but 3? Like, was he really that good? Maybe it's because they made Herald so much better that they couldn't keep Savage Bear where they were. I think that's like the only thing that I can think of on this one. Made a post on Reddit when Monster Passive changed. I don't think it was the right change, and Rethus responded. I will have to check that after. Junior Aldo Jr. is saying basically War Longship is a bronze Mithril. Yeah, well, kind of. I mean, you could definitely have more than one, that's for sure. So Rethus says, as I've stated previously, we're looking at monster faction abilities several weeks ago. I understand there's no way you could know that. This step has to be made as the game was being massively skewed towards monsters in a specific way to play, and it wasn't fun for new players. Long term, no details, something we're looking at. And that was made 16 days ago, so that must have not been fixed yet. They're still working on stuff. Thanks for sharing that, Pyrofox. Thanks so much. Pyrofox and Fox Mimes, my favorite chatting foxes. Okay. Zoltan Animal Stringer. Oh, okay. Sorry, Zoltan Animal Tamer. So Doodah goes up, but he goes down. So maybe this wasn't an overall buff. Maybe this wanted to kind of change how the strength was distributed. So if you play Zoltan on your side, you get 9. That's good. Before you were getting 8, right? No. It was a 2, right? It was a 2 before? From 1 to 3. Okay. So before you're getting 8, now you're getting 9. Right, here we are. So now you're getting 9 plus the buff. But you're giving away more also, plus the strength reduction. So just redistributing. He's a little bit better. You could say he's a little bit better now. Yeah. Don't really get the bear nerf. Maybe it was to let Isengrim get off the ground. I mean, maybe they saw my clip on Twitch where we had Isengrim go into 2 bears. So funny. Yeah, I just think that the nerf from 5 to 3, this one feels like it was. I don't want to criticize these too much because I really do think that they looked at the data, and when you're planning 140 changes, like that takes a lot of testing. Like you have to test, like that's a ton of changes. They looked at every point where they thought that the bar, like wherever the pie chart saw, whatever the win percentage was, whatever the amount of value that you were getting, wherever that was too high, they had to make a change, and they must have saw Savage Bear be really drastic. I mean, it pings everything that comes down. You get a lot of value out of the bear. It's just, I feel like 3 is pretty low. When they're buffing units from 3 to 4 because 3 is considered weak, it seems like this is now weak. We'll see. I think Harold is just so good now that they can't let him have bears this good. It's the only thing I can think of, really. Maybe it was the fact that they are 7 on the end. I think that 4 would have been okay. But who am I? Who am I? What business of it mine is it? Zoltan Animal Strangler. That is what I almost said, eh? Because I was looking at Tamer and Strength, so I'm like, Zoltan Animal Stamer. John Stamos. Isengrim. Let's talk about Isengrim. I think Isengrim, I'm on record, Isengrim's a good card. Isengrim is not the card he was, at all. But I think Isengrim is a good card. I think you play Isengrim anytime you want, play a couple of specials, put Eilerin in your deck, Eilerin comes out, makes all the elves dance around. All you need to do is play 2 special cards. Eilerin's at the party. Elias could also be at that party. Now, Eilerin's trying to catch Elias's eye, like, hey man, do you see me? But Elias only has eyes for the horned wenches, as we have talked about. Poor Eilerin just wants to go to the party and impress Elias, but he's not having any of it. That's the kind of juicy narrative I can get behind. Isengrim is the dad in this situation. So I think that Isengrim is good, though. I think that he is going to be, he gets out of control quickly. You play him in a similar deck with mercenaries, lots of specials. And if you don't have Yorveth or Radovid, I think those are your only 2 options, you just have to watch it happen. So it's just, those are 2 answers, both of which are faction specific. So in the mirror, Isengrim is a little worse, and against Radovid, Isengrim is not good. But if you run Ciri, one of them's better. I think it's pretty good, though. Yeah, Villa Rouge, good point. Good point. Between 3 and... So, yes, the Savage Bear can be killed by Lacerate now. Previously, couldn't even be killed by Manticore Venom. You'd need to use Thunder on the Savage Bear, even all the way up. And now, even all the way up to its final form, Thunder should be good enough Manticore Venom is not a card that is run very often, so there's that. I think Isengrim's good though, right? I don't think Isengrim's going to be an auto include. I don't think he's going to be an auto include. No, I would never say that. But I think that he's going to have a strong deck you can build around him. And it's going to be similar. It's going to be similar to the deck that we have right now. I believe that. Don't think Isengrim is going to be auto include. Need to figure out what on earth to do with the other cards and how to carry the strength through other rounds. Yeah. I don't think you're going to get to do that. I think Isengrim is going to win you around. I think that's the idea. You use the gold cards to win you around. And that's it, right? Use it to win around. Manticore is going to be run a lot more. Well, with Stamford's change, you just have one less. Like, Stamford's was such a reliable special card. I think Lacerate's going to go up. Like, everybody's going to put 3 Lacerates in if they're ever putting Stamford's in. Let's keep going. King Bran change. Interesting change. On top of, like, the War Longships going up and the Pirate Captains going up and all that stuff, King Bran also gets a buff in that every card that's discarded gets +2 to base strength. Every unit he discards. Now, this doesn't necessarily make King Bran competitive because King Bran still loses you card advantage. Really tough. But we do know that when he discards the Encrate Raiders, they do hit the board at 6 and not 4. Or, you know, +2 to whatever strength they're at based on the round. So there's that. So the strength advantage, but I don't think people were like looking at King Bran and worried that he was not strong enough, like putting strength on the board. But if that actually proves to be the problem, where you are giving up card advantage and you can't quite make that strength up to get back in time, this could be okay. But I think that they're probably going to do a little bit more tweaking with King Bran. I really do. I can't look at. It's hard to look at Herald's change, which is huge. And then look at King Bran's change, which seems very lukewarm, I think. I'll have to see how I feel about it. A lot of changes to Rezzing, too, so these things that he's buffing in the graveyard and the way Drake Bondu works now, like, is it going to be quite the same? I'm not sure. We're coming up to your favorite change in the whole patch. Is it Dandelion? Because we're going to talk about Dandelion right now. Dandelion used to be 1 strength, play Commander's Horn, whatever row you wanted. That was really good. That gave Northern Realms not 1, but 2 Commander's Horns, and more if you could ever resurrect Dandelion, which was troubling for many people, I think. Dandelion is a totally different card now. It's now a 4 strength unit on the melee row. Every unit, opponents and your own, get buffed by 2 when if Dandelion is on the board. Persistent effect. I think he has to be on the board for this to work, much like how the Savage Bear pings, Dandelion reverse pings. So, Dandelion, in my opinion, is not good. I don't know. I don't really know. Maybe I need to see somebody make it work, but Dandelion coming down and giving my opponent buffs, why would I play that card? And we're talking about the silver slot is competitive right now. It's really competitive right now. Junior Aldo Jr. to say we did nothing for King Bran. Yeah, so there's just you guys may not know this about me, but I actually don't like the term unplayable. Because if you can put the card in the deck, you can play with it. Okay? Like that's just if you put it in the deck, you can play with it. But King Bran is buffed. Fact. King Bran is better than he was. Fact. King Bran can be put in a deck. These are 3 strong facts that support that King Bran can be in this game. But this buff, I don't know. Dandelion's buff is it's a stinker. It's a stinker. I don't think this card's very good. You don't get the benefit from it first. Your opponent does. It's just, I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm sure they thought about this, and it wasn't shown very well in the stream. Dandelion was played. And then when the turn went back to Paul and Mikau, they played Crones, and all 3 Crones got the buff. It didn't make Dandelion look very good at all. Hold on, there's lots of stuff to read here. Dandelion might work on Banard add-ups. Yeah, but the fact that he's still doing it to your opponent's board, you got to really pump out more units than your opponent to really like to outspeed them. So maybe there's a deck. You put him in your Margarita Pizzeria deck. Dandelion is persistent. Yes, Fox Mime. Dandy the Swarm Feeder. Yes. Well, if you have a swarming, your poor infantry's better. Your poor infantry's better. Same way Yennefer works. Dandy works like a silver version, and it's passive and not active. Yep, that's true. But you only have one choice. Also, really worse in every way imaginable. Margarita is literally unplayable because she summons Banard adepts when she actually should be summoning Aretuza students. So if this is a lore problem, Pyrofox, write them. Write them, see what they say. Provide proof. Do your research. Word the letter. Make it a strongly worded letter, but make sure that you be taken seriously. And you tell them that Banard has nothing to do with Margarita. If that's true. I don't know if that's true. You tell them. Your goal is to have a lot of cards more than your opponent. You might have a chance. Yeah, it could work. As usual, Dandelion hurts more than he helps in the situation. Yeah, I mean, the truth is, if you can produce more units, like if you play Poor Infantry, Margarita, promote the Poor Infantry, tons of the adepts come out, Dandelion starts to look pretty damn good. But it's just, you need that. You need that all to line up. And it's a silver you build a deck around, and we'll see. We'll see. It's cool that we're thinking about it, though. I do like that. Yeah, Faramir. You'll hear it on the podcast when we finalize the next week's podcast. Here's a little sneak preview. Faramir thinking the Drowners not being immune to rain is one of the stupidest things. But it was a placeholder. It was a placeholder. And now Drowner is now going to be drowning a unit near you. So, okay, Monster Faction no longer targets resilient units. That's good. Did it do that? I felt like you put resilient on it so it didn't turn. Oh, okay. I guess I wasn't sure. Is that your favorite change? You find you build your decks more around silvers than golds? Yeah, I think the golds, they want golds to be in a position where the gold is very swingy in most situations if you need that round. Dijkstra is a gold you build around. Like, that's an example. Saskia, I would say, is a gold you build around because you want to have a lot of crap on your board, and you kind of want your opponent to have a lot of crap on their board as well. You don't need to build around it. But Isengrim you need to build around, for an example. You don't have to build too hard these days. But silver's for sure, like Mithril you build around. So yeah. Bouncing Dragoons into Dandy. Handy dandy. All right. Next one is your favorite. Skjal is now agile. Valor, take it away, man. You tell me why that's your favorite, and I'll move on to the next one. And you can tell me, we can talk about Skjal being agile. I actually, when I picked Yarpen in my keg last night, one of my other choices was Skjal, and it was a really tough choice. But I just kind of have a soft spot for Yarpen. He just yells so loud. He yells so loud. Let's talk about the promotion change, though. Promotion. Converting units to gold no longer sets current strength as new base strength. Also, the unit will revert from gold to its original status when destroyed or at the end of the current round. Upon entering the graveyard, both gold status and buffs are removed. Goes back down as if the card was moved from your hand to your graveyard. No change. This is a devastating change to people who relied on promoting units. And I think we can all agree that promoting Olgierd to astronomical levels and buffing Olgierd to astronomical levels and buffing it, and Roach and buffing it, and Botchling and buffing it, although Botchling is resilient, so you still have to deal with Botchling in a way. They nerfed Botchling a little bit too, but not as bad. Also, there's like a lot of other ways that you could buff Adrenaline Rush full test and promote, and it was... Basically, if you didn't have the answer, it was over. And now, Adrenaline Rush and buffing is still going to be a problem because if they don't ever go to the graveyard... Wait, hold on a second. So am I understanding here? Even if it stays on the board, the promote's gone? So if you Adrenaline Rush a buffed, let's use an old example. Obviously, we're not talking about Trebs. But let's say we had Trebs buffed to 10, Adrenaline Rush, promote. When the round ends, the promotion falls off, even if it's Adrenaline Rushed. It's a big nerf, man. Yeah, you like the Witcher 2, Gwent? We're just playing some Witcher 2 while we talk about this stuff. Maybe I want to upload this. I think I might. Promote has gone away at the end of the round. Yeah, they did not want that to be a tactic whatsoever. I thought that maybe the Dimeradium Shackles added to the game might be enough, but if they have to do this as well, we shall see. So, Velour Rouge loves that you can target Skjal on a different row. So that's how Skjal works, yeah, but that's how it still works, right? Velour Rouge, that's how he always worked. The only difference is now you don't have to play him on the melee row. So maybe that's like, did it only work? Did he only work on the melee row? Does he work row dependent? I actually don't know this. Spawn copies of units or units spawned by other units are now always placed on the same row as the base unit. So, like the Vriad Vanguard I was playing with earlier, you put your Neophyte on the same row to reveal buff, you could say. Benefit to anything that affects row. But, however, didn't we see in the stream that Isengrim was still putting them on random rows? Maybe Isengrim is specifically a tooltip to say random rows. Passing it to Northern Realms is still scary. Round 1, Adrenaline Rush, Cheese. Round 2, they go first because they won promote. Ah, I see what you mean. Then you can't get rid of it. Okay, well but it's still like just less oppressive than it was. You can probably see that coming. Just don't pass early, I guess. Philip, a strength change from 12 to 10. I don't know if this makes her playable. I don't know if I would put her in a deck to be competitive, is really what I'm trying to say. Weather change. If a unit is moved out of weather, its strength changes according to clear weather rules. This is very good for units that will move units from one row to another, like the new Coral card. And if you ard something in weather, I believe the damage is resolved after the weather is resolved in the case of the new Geralt Ard or Guard card. You know what I'm saying? Oh, right. Craven is the row you place him in. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Skjal is much better now. Coral with Skjal is a thing. And Coral is a Skellige card, yeah? That's pretty cool. Copies spawned on a row affected by weather now have their strength reduced. Okay, that's how it should be in my opinion. Dwarven Mercenary strength change from 2 to 3. Still gain strength due to dwarves. Just part of the dwarf buffs. Dwarves are stronger than they were. Rarity of Wolves aired in Wild Hunt minion to Epic. I have no idea what this changes. But since the Wolves and Aridin and Wild Hunt are copies that are spawned from an Epic card, they are also Epic themselves. I think it's safe to assume that Gontro Dim Shadows would also be Epic, if it matters. Can't think of why it matters, but it matters. They should just drop the Geralt in front of those cards. Then who's the character then? If it's just the spell, what has 6 strength when it hits the board? It's got to be something. They could make a different Witcher though. They could put all the Witcher. I mean, all the Witchers use those signs, but I mean, you're gonna want to have different iterations of Geralt, I think. Oh boy, how are we doing here? We're like halfway through. Let's do this. Redanian Elite buff removed due to technical issues. Ha! In your faces. Strength change from 4 to 6. What does this mean? This means that Redanian Elites cannot be buffed to 10 when you reinforce 1. So it's the buff. It's the self-buff that happens. They're still going to convert to gold when there's 3 of them, and you're going to get 8 when there's 3 of them all the time. If anything, they are buffed overall because now they're always 6. They come pre-buffed. These cards are better than they were. You just can't exploit them with that bug. That's all. Or that technical issue. But they're better now, right? They're better. Well, they're going to introduce Triss other spells. There's more Triss cards coming, and there's going to be more Yennefer cards coming as well. And arguably more Ciri cards coming as well. So while they won't do Triss Igni, in a previous version of the build, there was a card called Triss Butterfly Spell, which functioned kind of like Woodland Spirit. It created she created fog when she landed on the board. But Woodland Spirit is much more interesting than she ever was. But she was also like 11 strength. It was pretty good for a gold card. New category, Relentless. We know all about this. So when a card is Relentless, it cannot be taken away from the board by any means other than destroying it. You can't Milva it, Ethna it, decoy it. That's pretty much it, though, right? But you can move it from row to row, I think. Operator and Regis. Operator and Regis are now Relentless. They cannot be brought back. Even so you can't even demote Regis and try to decoy him. You can't do it. Operator, when destroyed from the game, gone forever. You cannot multi-operator. They couldn't fix it, so they remove it. Yeah, you know, couldn't fix it yet. We are in the closed beta still. Keep that in mind, everybody. We are in the closed beta. Ciri Blink was what it was called. Ciri Empress. Oh yeah. Ciri Witcher. All awesome. So maybe Ciri's one of the Nilfgaard leaders. Wouldn't that be weird if she was Empress of Nilfgaard? That would be weird. An alternate timeline. Johnny is Relentless and is removed from the game when destroyed, just like Operator. So like the stuff that you can do by bouncing Shani around and bouncing Operator around, copying Operator and Johnny, having 100 Johnnies and Operators, can't do that. Johnny now ever returns the exact same card. Interesting wording here. If my opponent is running Ciri and I am running Ciri and I use Johnny on Ciri because let's say I won the round, do I get his Ciri back? Is that the exact same card? No way to really know. I'm going to assume that it means if you use it on Ciri, you don't get Ciri. Because otherwise, there's just no way of knowing that. But it would be better to know that you don't have like twice as many chances of getting a card that your opponent has as well. Yeah, Redanian Elite is really good now. Coming down at 6, that's, you know, it's good. It's good. Weather is better against them, so that there is that. Weather means that there'll only ever be 3s and not 5s as they are currently because of the technical issue. I would even go out on a limb and say that this is probably just how they should be. But I have a feeling no, they're not going to want to do that. But you're going to play. I think people are going to play with this card. 6 is good. It's good, and it is still good with reinforcements anyway. All right. Ancient Foglet now correctly dies before getting buffed from the strength of 0 at the end of the turn. I never encountered this, but I imagine that's pretty frustrating. If for some reason a tick happens over the transition of a turn. So, Caretaker Medic category removed. I guess this was a problem. I didn't encounter any issues where a Caretaker's Medic category was holding me back from any specific strategy, so. Decoy and Nature's Gifts are now banished after being played. You cannot Aglace these cards. You can, however, use Nature's Gift on Decoy or Scorch, which are also fleeting cards. Wait, Scorch is not fleeting. I take that back. Scorch is not fleeting. But you can Nature's Gift. Sorry, Commander's Horn is the card I was thinking of. What do you guys think? Radiant Elite, see a lot of play, right? Much okay with 24. Can't win round 1 after that. Still really hard to beat it for sure. 2 card me and shut me out of the round. Still strong. Caretaker can steal medics. Oh, right now it can't? The medic tag is gone. That is true. There is no medic tag. It is now an unfortunately named permadeath tag. It's unfortunate because it sounds like there is not permanence in that. But Earth Elemental now spawns 3 small elementals. The card was weak. It needed a buff. Is that a great buff? Maybe. I don't know. Zoe, oh, my dog doesn't like me talking about Earth Elemental for sure. Just a second, guys. Where were we? Yeah. Earth Elemental is better. Is it good? I mean, the cool thing about Earth Elemental is that it's 6 on the turn you play it, and now 6 on the next turn. That's good. I mean, if Yarpin is good, that's good. Because you can do more as monsters with that. I think it's pretty... I think it's good. I think that you could work it into a Gels deck, I think. So, it just wasn't very good before. I think. Yeah, a silver 12 over 2 rounds. Can also eat a lightning and just chill with his 2 brothers. Margarita and Vest now properly counted towards units promoted. I guess before you could promote these units and they wouldn't trigger their own abilities. So now they will. And that sounds like that's how it should work. I'm going to classify that as a bug fix. Milva can no longer target herself when silver. That seems so ridiculous that it even worked like that. So I'm glad that they changed that. Sabrina now only triggers upon entering the graveyard. This is pretty huge because you can now decoy Sabrina. You couldn't do that before, and I learned that the hard way. And it felt dumb when it happened. It's like, I'm saving your life and you're still exploding? That was so rude, Sabrina. I'll never forget it. I'll never forget that. Their Ekimara targets now more than anything. Mm-hmm. Could say that. Too early that Shiru sucks? We'll see, we'll see. I think Earth Elemental will just see some play. I think right now it's seeing pretty much no play. I can just run normal Scorch and keep my gold spot for something better, not a 4-strength body. What are we talking about now? I feel like I may have missed that part. Oh, you're talking about Shiru, eh? Million Scorch deck. Yeah, Scorch, a Glaze Scorch, Shiru Scorch, normal Scorch. And Bork and Geralt Igni. Yeah. Scorch the world. Scorch and Scoia'tael. 5-alarm chili. Dun Banner. Oh, sorry. Hold on a second. Savage Bear now properly destroys cards before they trigger their abilities all the time. That's good. That's how it should work. I mean, it should work the same each time. It looks like that's the way they went. So, the bear will still kill foglets like it's scooping salmon out of a river. Spectral Rail now immune to all weather. This is good. Doesn't this immediately kill itself if there's any weather on the board? So I think that's fine. They should have made that change. Blue Boy Lugos buff. Maybe he'll see play. Dun Banner Heavy Cavalry strength change from 4 till 5, and their promotion will trigger before Bork's Scorch. Interesting. So now Dun Banner Heavy Cavalry, when on self-promotion, now becomes a 7. And if there's Bork on the board, will automatically beat Bork to the fire and not get scorched. Just a buff across the board there for Dun Banner Heavy Cavalry. Maybe it'll see play. It's not seeing play right now because it's not that strong, right? Even cards that... This is a brand new hat and it's kind of making me itchy and it's kind of fitting me weird. Thanks, everybody. But yeah, I mean, I think the card just wasn't weak enough and wasn't seeing enough play. I think you could say that about Dun Banner. The DMHC, the DBHC. Priorities of numerous abilities were changed to make them feel correct. I do like when things feel right, for sure. Meta category now known as Permadeath, and Permadeath units cannot be resurrected. But I think we heard that Sigurdrifa, Nanika, and Lubberkin, and Shawnee, and Caretaker can all resurrect Permadeath units. So you shouldn't call it Permadeath, guys. Don't call it Permadeath. You got to call it something else. Word it. I feel like you don't need a keyword here. I feel like you just need to word. I think that they are on the right track with the medic tag. I'm sure that this has got to be a future design decision type of thing. I just think that perma, you don't say perma if there's nothing perma. If the death isn't permanent, you shouldn't say it's permadeath. Hardcore mode Diablo. When you die, you're dead. Nanika, Shawnee, Lubberkin now in the permadeath category. So it's important to note that you cannot resurrect Nanika, but Nanika could potentially resurrect a permadeath bronze. But they can't, the medics can't resurrect each other. So there's that. I think I have to see this. I think maybe this still isn't crystal clear to me here. How is it a fail when I'm playing against a monster value deck that you can remove huge points? Eating stuff with Karen, yeah. Yeah, I want to believe that there's a good consume deck that you can build with Karen. One of the coolest points. Karen was a card in Wild Hunt 3 as well. I can't remember what it did off the top of my head. I can't remember if it was just like a 6 or something like that, but it was cool. And now this one's pretty cool, man. This one's cool. Karen, in case you aren't aware, is an 8 strength gold unit, new card coming for monsters. Consume 3 non-gold units on your board and added strength to the Karen. People talking about a keyword system, so permadeath is temporary, I think. Yeah, I mean, they should have just kept the medic tag then. So I think it just sounds better. I think it's really confusing. I think that there is a confusion hill to climb, and I don't want to give away everything that Faramir and Grey Boxer and I talked about on the podcast, but we talked about this part too. That we had some ideas. I think that they're on the right track with the adrenaline rush, the big block with the fist. They're on the right track when they come to like clearly showing what a thing is and then understanding what that thing does in the future. So yeah, it's just some of this medic stuff. Like they're just trying to get their heads around how they're going to do this moving forward, how they're going to make medics not feel so crazy, bringing medics back with medics back with medics back. And this is the solution they have right now. They don't want it to pollute the game while they test other stuff, so I think this is just the solution they have right now. I want to believe that that's true. And if that's the case, then do what you got to do, guys. Get this game going. Do what you got to do. It's kind of crazy right now. Siege towers will no longer buff themselves at 0 health in certain situations, just like Ancient Foglet, making sure that when you kill these things, they die. Restoration now, it's +2 to base strength of a unit in the graveyard before the unit is resurrected. Interesting. It probably plays. This is another point for weather, because it means that you won't hit the weather and then get the buff. That's one of the main ones there for sure. So that's important to note. Putting all of the stuff into one unit weakens you to counters. I agree, Velo Rouge. I think the Karen is definitely going to have a weakness there, but you're going to have the answer. You're also going to have a way to really make that work. I just don't know if the Karen works. Like if you just drop the Karen into the current card set, I don't know if it plays. But if we're getting 20 new cards over 4 factions plus neutrals, what do we think? Hey, what do we think? How's that going to work? You split plus neutral, 5 cards for each, 1 gold for each, 1 silver for each, 3 bronze for each. 3 sets of bronze for each. I wonder if that's how it's going to be. In that case, we've already seen Monster's gold card. Are we happy with that being the only gold card? I wonder. We've already seen Geralt's. We haven't seen Northern Realms gold card. And that's the only one, right? There's lots that's lots. Like 20 is a lot when you're talking about bronzes and silvers and stuff. So I think 20 is probably more than people think. 20, I think. Maybe somebody who played Hearthstone can correct me. How many cards did you get from the very, very first Naxxramas adventure? It was only about 20 or so. And that was a huge, huge change to the base set at the time. It's pretty crazy. Those cards were known to be like some of the strongest cards they ever released for a really long time. So we'll see if Gwent falls into that same mistake, perhaps. Don't mind having strong cards, though. Reanimated Kraven has a higher ability priority. I feel like this sentence without context is hard for me to analyze, but it seems like the buff that the Reanimated Kraven would give to units on the row will occur before other things occur. So it's possible that when you play it into the weather, in this case, the buff happens after. I'm not sure, though. You think you have the right cards to run in a Gels deck? I do. I actually milled my Earth Elemental, and I milled Gels, too. Sorry. I had a really bad day with Gels, and I kind of just like really needed the scraps to craft Caretaker or something like that. But I'll get him again. Am I smoking something? I'm sure that's not directed to me, because no, I'm not. Not currently. I think the adventures in the 30 to 45. These days they are, Pyrofox, yes. But I feel like the very original Naxxramas adventure was was definitely on the much lower end. Much lower end. Currently, Morkvarg spawned before Craven. I see. Gotcha. All right, moving on. 2-turn timer to Madman Lugos ability. Just like Isengrim, they don't want him to be a late game bomb. They still want him to have the same value that he'd offer. How do you change that? In Lugos' case, you add the timer. And I'm glad that they didn't just add a timer to Isengrim as well. So I think they're just keeping an eye on that kind of stuff. War Longship recognizes Morkvarg as being discarded properly. Sounds like a bug fix to me. Clan Demon Pirate Captain now recognizes Clan and Crate Raider as being discarded properly. I thought it did already. I thought the most recent patch actually had that change in there. So now it's really going to work. It's much better that way. Same with War Longship. Again, I think that these notes actually belonged in the previous patch, because I think this is how it's happening. Vriad Sapper should no longer trigger its ability at 0 strength. Good. It shouldn't. Nothing should be triggered at 0 strength, in my opinion. We've got another massive damage removal card and a huge buff to almost all cards in Skoya, and we only know 5 out of the 20 cards so far. Very early to assume dead card. Yep. Yeah. There's 15 cards left to come out. We don't know when those are going to come out. But we also know that the new cards are not coming in the patch, so it's probably going to be a little bit still. But there's going to be another patch with those cards, I think, before the end of the year. So, Gwent mess. A 2-turn timer to Gavehag. I'm sure that means to say Grave Hag. So, again, interesting that they didn't do this with Frightener, but they didn't want Grave Hag, much like Madman Lugos, they just didn't want Grave Hag just to come down and be like, boom, what now? Grave Hag had a lot more counterplay, though, so I don't know if this is necessary. Grave Hag, I'll be honest, I never had a Grave Hag played against me, ever. So I don't know if this makes it worse. I don't know. Grave Hag, bad legendary now? You guys think? Shiro's good. Heavy control list card. I think Shiro's good. Frightener dodging the bullet is a bit weird. I agree. I think it's a little strange that I treat them both very similar. Like, they both feel like a similar kind of card. They're both weak to weather. They both buff based on graveyard. And maybe it's just harder. Maybe it's just so much easier to build a deck where Grave Hag can take advantage of it. Making a full special card deck is actually not great. It's really hard to get the strength you need to win one of the rounds you need to win. In my experience. Junior Aldo Jodo makes a very good point. Grave Hag can be placed into weather and then get the buff. That is true. We're almost done here. Grave Hag's also buffed base strength to 2, so that's like one extra little bit to it. Elven War Dancer changed from 2 to 4. If the buff remains the same, that card is really good. That's a really good card. Elven War Dancer was easy to remove, but pretty hard to remove once it got going unless you wanted to scorch it. This is a good card now, Elven War Dancer. Big buff here, I think, because it gets 4 per ambush card, so it becomes 8 almost immediately if your next card's a trap. And if you're playing that kind of deck, I think that kind of deck's going to be really strong. So I think there's a cool ambush archetype that's going to come into Squayatel that's going to be really strong because of this card. Finally, when we're talking about patch changes, Clan Todorok Shieldsmith nerfed a little bit too much, I guess. They're bringing his strength back up to 5, so he's 5, and now he gives 2 base strength. Better card, coming down at 7 in the late rounds. Shieldsmith loved Shieldsmith in 2016, just much better. Just much better. Remaining optimistic here. We have a whole change to the game coming. It's going to be very interesting to see. Yeah. Standard big monsters. It's called Monster Truck Rally. With a couple of first lights, especially, can easily end the game with a 15-20 strength Frightener without trying particularly hard. Now, that's a good point, actually. You would play first light in a Frightener deck, and maybe Dagon as well. Dagon doesn't count as a spell card, though, I don't believe. And if it does, I don't know if it's intended. The game fixes are probably not that interesting to go through. It's like falling out of sync stuff and stuff not working. The fireball thing, the fireball trap, we saw this issue already today when I was playing. Game blocks, priority, ability priority and stuff. I don't think we need to go through this. Typos, game polishes. Improved mulligan scrolling mechanics. That sounds like quality of life. Tooltip polishes, typos, punctuation. I think everybody can enjoy that. But that's it, guys. That's the change. That's a lot of changes, eh? Would it take us an hour to talk about that safely? We talked about it, of course, on the most recent podcast, on our live edition. Now, you want some fresh, hot takes. That's the one you want to listen to because we didn't have a lot of time to think about anything. I think I was still building the slides as we were presenting. So that was a tough one. But that was lots of fun. Love scooping that info. But it's always important. You got to put in the work. It's good stuff, though. So we'll take this away here. We're going to play some more